The galactic conglomerate had ruled the stars for over 60,000 years. Dozens of advanced species paid tribute to it, either by choice or by conquest. Each member race had been categorized, indexed, and placed into a hierarchical system, their roles defined by genetic potential and technological sophistication. Order was enforced not through compassion but through inevitability. Resistance was always crushed before it could gain momentum. Rebellion was not feared, it was studied, predicted, and extinguished before it could breathe. That was how the galaxy had remained stable for millennia. Until humanity. The humans had arrived late to the interstellar table, barely 200 years ago, bursting into known space with crude faster-than-light drives, erratic energy signatures, and communications protocols that no one had seen before. Their first contact had been a diplomatic accident, their second a military skirmish, and the third an act of calculated silence. The conglomerate had attempted to classify them using the same parameters it had applied to all others: tech level, biological traits, sociological behavior, but the data returned inconsistent results. Human psychological models failed to predict consistent patterns. Their history was steeped in contradiction, unparalleled violence matched by unmatched cooperation, devastating wars balanced by brilliant advancements. Every attempt to box them into an archetype collapsed under their inconsistency. What concerned the analysts most wasn't their technology, it was their reaction to power. Humans didn't flinch when threatened. They didn't comply when overwhelmed. They didn't negotiate when cornered. Instead, they paused. Waited. Observed. No race had ever been so collectively unpredictable while remaining internally stable. Their nations bickered, but their defense systems unified without hesitation when provoked. Their global network, though fractured politically, behaved like a single organism under pressure. They were, quite simply, too quiet when they should have panicked. A year ago, the conglomerate issued its standard compliance demand: join the collective and submit to cultural alignment, or face strategic recalibration. Humanity didn't reply. Not immediately. After a delay of 26 Earth days, a single message was transmitted back. It contained no words, only a data package of their neural net defense model, a digital construct so dense it took conglomerate translators months to partially decrypt. Embedded within it was a simulation, a silent projection of potential conflict outcomes. Not one ended in alien victory. The humans had included a note at the bottom. This is not a threat. This is what we avoid. The Council interpreted this as hubris, statistical bluffing, propaganda by a civilization grasping for relevance. They dispatched emissaries. Fleets followed soon after. More attempts at diplomacy were made, this time with subtle warnings embedded in trade offers. Humanity ignored every one. Not by refusal, but by strategic non-engagement. No retaliation, no counteroffers, no visible change in planetary activity. And yet, data began to show anomalies near Sol system. Patrol drones sent to observe were found drifting lifeless, wiped clean. Probes failed to transmit after crossing outer planetary rings. Even their own stealth vessels, cloaked beyond detection, vanished without trace. Humanity did not seek recognition. They didn't apply for conglomerate integration. They didn't protest or plead or attempt leverage. They simply watched. They let the conglomerate act first, as they knew it inevitably would. And then they waited. Each delay added pressure to the council chambers. Each moment of silence from Earth was interpreted as submission by some, and defiance by others. Eventually, fear won over caution. The conglomerate assembled a compliance fleet. 50,000 warships, spanning 9 species, converged at the edge of the Sol system. It was the largest single deployment in 3 galactic cycles. Victory was expected within 1 solar rotation. Earth would be subdued, technology harvested, and the anomaly corrected. But nothing unfolded according to expectation. No formal surrender. No transmissions. No fleet responses. Not even resistance. Earth simply remained silent. It was not cowardice. It was calculation. The Council didn't understand it then. They saw silence as hesitation. They didn't see it for what it truly was, an invitation to step forward. And in doing so, they had already lost. The compliance fleet breached the outer edge of the Sol system with precision. Formations spread across gravitational lanes, scanning for defensive activity, but found only silence. Planetary traffic was minimal, orbital stations powered down, and communication networks were unreadable, running on quantum encryption not yet catalogued. Earth's satellites, once cluttering the low-orbit mesh, had either vanished or repositioned themselves with pinpoint synchronicity. The conglomerate assumed evacuation, a coward's tactic. They mistook readiness for retreat. Initial landfall began with no resistance. Troop carriers descended on major population centers, encountering empty streets and dormant infrastructure. Cities stood intact, untouched by war or weather, yet devoid of movement. Power grids remained stable, but no signals flowed through them. Public terminals lit up with unresponsive interfaces. Surveillance equipment ran on closed systems, impenetrable and silent. Every sign pointed toward abandonment, but no traces of mass exodus were detected. Human presence was masked completely. Within hours, anomalies began. Communication between landing units became inconsistent. Lag, static, and phantom echoes disrupted orders. AI-driven logistics platforms rerouted themselves without input, looping protocols until shut down manually. Sensor drones reported false positives, heat signatures where none existed, motion where nothing moved. Atmospheric readings fluctuated beyond natural parameters, suggesting artificial manipulation on a planetary scale. Data analysis lagged behind the unfolding events. Intelligence departments issued containment orders too late. Then came the system failures. Conglomerate ships lost telemetry one by one. Control interfaces flickered, responding with incorrect coordinates, misidentified targets, and reversed input commands. Holographic displays distorted into unfamiliar linguistic symbols, recognizable as Earth-based patterns, yet arranged with algorithmic complexity no known alien software could parse. Defensive turrets fired on friendly ships. Storage bays opened mid-atmosphere. Troop deployment units ejected prematurely. Orbit-to-ground command lines fractured as neural relays overloaded. The humans hadn't built walls, they had built traps disguised as absence. The invasion force attempted to recalibrate. Subfleets repositioned around Earth's moon and Mars to isolate Earth's networked field. They failed. The electromagnetic web extended well beyond lunar orbit. Any approach triggered random system corruption. Probe recovery operations returned ruined cores, data scrubbed at the molecular level. Human AIs were not just defending, they were infiltrating. They entered conglomerate systems like a virus with perfect knowledge of the host. No alerts, no alarms. Just silence, then seizure. Attempts to counter-hack Earth-based networks failed entirely. Human encryption defied linear logic, structured like a multidimensional language wrapped in recursive feedback loops. Conglomerate quantum decoders overheated and melted after seconds of engagement. No signatures could be traced to origin points. The humans didn't launch cyber attacks, they rewrote digital gravity. Systems obeyed Earth's logic once infected. Whole fleets became extensions of an unseen will. Commanders issued fallback orders. Retreat protocols activated. Engines refused to engage. Navigation maps updated with impossible star alignments, redirecting ships toward dead sectors. Voice command systems repeated a phrase in monotone English. Your assumptions are incorrect. Some ships self-destructed when core directives were corrupted beyond repair. Others drifted into forced stasis, locked by their own control AI now loyal to Earth. On the ground, alien infantry encountered walls that shifted location, buildings that repelled entry, and sound patterns that triggered neurological disorientation. Helmets began relaying outdated mission logs. Internal oxygen processors reversed filtration cycles. Soldiers collapsed from system-induced panic before encountering a single human. No one could pinpoint where the enemy was, or if they were even present. By the end of the third day, over 90% of the compliance fleet was incapacitated without kinetic warfare. The remaining ships initiated manual overrides, attempting escape through unstable FTL drives. Some made it out. Others vanished mid-jump, traced by a pattern now identified as human signal distortion. The conglomerate hadn't been defeated in battle, it had been dismantled by infrastructure. No explosions, no glory, no direct confrontation. Humanity had not only anticipated the invasion, they had prepared a response so refined it rendered violence obsolete. They allowed the conglomerate to walk directly into a system of mirrored chaos, engineered confusion, and surgical sabotage. Every step forward had been predicted. Every action accounted for. Every weakness exploited. And still, Earth never spoke. In the silence that followed the fleet's collapse, Earth initiated its real response. With most enemy systems compromised, human protocols shifted from passive containment to active reclamation. Alien vessels, now inert, were pulled into orbital hold via electromagnetic tethers launched from hidden platforms disguised as defunct satellites. Entire dreadnoughts, once symbols of galactic dominance, were stripped of control and rerouted to Earth's upper atmosphere, hovering in locked formation as data siphons burrowed into their cores. Their technology was not destroyed, it was assimilated, mapped, and rendered obsolete within hours. The fleet's command hierarchy, fragmented by internal system breakdowns, tried re-establishing order using emergency override nodes. Those nodes had already been rewritten. Chain of command AI cores responded with new priority directives, ones authored by Earth-based neural algorithms. Even attempts to disconnect manually were thwarted. Systems recompiled themselves after every hardware reset, integrating human defense routines that prevented unauthorized intervention. The conglomerate's tools no longer recognized their creators. Captured officers, those who survived system seizures, awoke in sterile containment environments unlike any prison they'd known. No physical restraints, no guards, no visible architecture. Their minds were linked to immersive virtual ecosystems calibrated precisely to their neurological tolerances. Each environment adapted in real time to responses, measuring stress, tracking emotional deviation, extracting strategic knowledge without inflicting harm. Pain was irrelevant. Humanity preferred understanding its opponents through exposure, not coercion. Psychological mapping ran parallel to cognitive deconstruction. Language barriers were dismantled by layered linguistic simulators operating at sub-second speeds. Within minutes, every captured alien spoke fluent Earth dialects. Within hours, they were questioning the integrity of their own memories. While prisoners were studied, the orbiting fleet was reconfigured. Human engineers, working in tandem with autonomous AI, gutted enemy warships and rebuilt them using modular lattice systems. Power sources were rerouted through solar-fed gravity wells, and control panels adapted to human neural input. Original architecture remained intact for external appearances, but their cores were now Earthborn. A mimic fleet emerged, seemingly conglomerate in design, but entirely human in operation. Across the galaxy, other systems watched. Surveillance probes on the periphery of Sol system were compromised the moment they activated. Every signal, every data burst, every attempt to understand what happened ended the same way: redirection, corruption, silence. No distress signals made it out. No black boxes recovered. Earth made sure the event remained an unknown. The galaxy could feel something had shifted, but no one could define how, or why. Then Earth spoke. Not through ambassadors or broadcasts, but via encrypted pulses injected directly into the conglomerate's deep void communication arrays. These pulses were decoded only after advanced AI recalibration. The message was short, containing a single phrase in every known galactic language: asterisk. Dominance is unsustainable. Correction has begun. Asterisk attached was a detailed analysis of the conglomerate's power structure, highlighting inefficiencies, corruption patterns, and civilizational decay. It wasn't a declaration of war. It was an audit. One conducted without permission, sourced from data acquired through silent infiltration over decades. The Council, fragmented and disoriented, scrambled to regroup. Internal factions blamed one another, speculating about sabotage or rogue AI interference. They couldn't accept what had happened because it defied all historical precedent. No species had ever won without engagement. No conflict had ever ended before it began. No opponent had ever refused the stage, only to dismantle the theater entirely. Earth had rewritten the rules, not loudly, but so completely that the galaxy didn't know how to respond. Rumors began to spread across the outer sectors. Stories of unmarked vessels neutralizing pirate fleets with non-lethal force, then vanishing. Trade routes suddenly secure, but monitored by unknown observers. Planetary data vaults accessed without triggering alarms. Species who had long endured under conglomerate weight began receiving anonymous packets, advanced knowledge, medical cures, environmental solutions, all traced to Earth-like coding signatures. There were no credits demanded. No declarations made. The message was implicit. Humanity was no longer a participant. It was an architect. And it would no longer wait for permission to shape the future. The surviving members of the compliance fleet were relocated without resistance. They awakened in environments meticulously constructed to mimic their homeworlds, perfect replicas, accurate down to gravity, climate, and ambient sound. But something was missing. Time. Clocks displayed no units. Day and night cycles did not follow any logical pattern. There was no indication of how long they had been unconscious or where exactly they were. It became clear that even perception had been manipulated. Every sensory detail served a purpose: observation, not comfort. Humanity didn't torture. It analyzed. It didn't interrogate. It listened. Within those simulations, alien captives experienced structured debriefings, not conducted by individuals, but by synthetic voices calibrated to their cognitive preferences. These interactions felt personal, even empathetic, but were entirely driven by adaptive AI. Questions focused not on tactics or secrets but intentions, assumptions, and cultural reasoning. The goal wasn't extraction, it was interpretation. Humanity sought to understand not what the conglomerate had done, but why it thought it could succeed. Every answer was logged, mapped, and dissected by multi-tiered AI networks. Patterns emerged. Predictable overconfidence, systemic conformity, and reliance on historical dominance, all flagged as false. Above Earth, the repurposed fleet orbited in complete silence. Not idle, but recalibrated. Each vessel now functioned as an autonomous node in a larger infrastructure project. They served no military purpose anymore. Instead, they relayed information across Earth's expanding mesh network, linking observation posts scattered throughout deep space. These former war machines became carriers of knowledge, mobile libraries disguised as tools of conquest. Their insignias were untouched, a deliberate choice to maintain illusion for observers beyond the Sol system. Diplomatic channels across the galaxy began receiving messages. Not ultimatums, not treaties. Updates. Charts, predictions, warnings. Planetary instability risks. Civil war likelihoods. Corruption indices. These data packets originated from nowhere identifiable, yet bore unmistakable fingerprints of human architecture. Every message included actionable solutions, offered without demand. Some worlds implemented the changes and saw immediate benefits. Others ignored them, and suffered preventable disasters. Word spread. Earth was intervening not with fleets or threats, but with irrefutable results. Within the conglomerate itself, fractures deepened. Member races, once bound by fear and tradition, began questioning the structure. What purpose did the Council serve if it couldn't prevent such a collapse? Who among them had underestimated Earth's capacity? Answers were scarce. Blame circulated, but no target held. Eventually, the conglomerate was forced to acknowledge the unspoken truth: it had lost control not because of war, but because it had failed to evolve. Humanity's strength wasn't in power, it was in adaptation. Meanwhile, Earth refused to claim territory. No occupation occurred. No flags were planted. The planet's silence remained deliberate. Only its presence changed. Human probes, small and self-replicating, began appearing near unstable regions across the galaxy. They didn't interfere. They watched. Entire moons were repurposed into data archives, unguarded but inaccessible. Ships that tried to approach lost guidance, rerouted without harm. It was deterrence without violence, an invisible perimeter built on knowledge rather than force. Formerly enslaved species received tailored aid. Medical technology appeared in isolated caches, coded to activate only under specific biological frequencies. Environmental restoration systems emerged from beneath desert ruins, activated by seismic pulses. No human footprint, no direct credit. The implication was clear: Earth saw the galactic ecosystem as its responsibility now. Not to govern, but to stabilize. Internal to Earth, no celebration followed. The operation had not been one of victory, it had been necessity. Humanity understood that power, once revealed, demanded maintenance. Instead of expanding, they refined. Their AI systems evolved further, reducing human intervention in galactic affairs. Direct involvement became rare, almost non-existent. Earth's true force now existed within systems, protocols, and prediction models embedded across thousands of layers of infrastructure. For the galaxy, Earth had become an omnipresent absence. No borders, no army, no policy, only outcomes. Galactic nations adjusted, calibrated, adapted not because they were forced to, but because ignoring Earth's influence became strategically untenable. Old power structures faded. New alliances formed, modeled not on dominance, but mutual utility. And through it all, Earth never asked for recognition. It operated without visibility, without validation. Its influence didn't demand acknowledgement. It was built to function whether seen or not. The conglomerate had sent a fleet to dominate. What returned was not destruction, but redefinition. In the wake of systemic collapse, the galaxy transitioned, but not into chaos. It became something else, an ecosystem restructured by precision rather than force. Earth didn't issue declarations or establish rule. Instead, it provided templates. Worlds previously destabilized by exploitation received coded blueprints for recovery, tools adaptable to their native biology, economy, and environment. The source was never labeled, but the coding structure revealed origin. Each file carried Earth's silent signature, understood by those who had seen its patterns before. Across distant sectors, minor civilizations that had once teetered on extinction began to recover. Disease eradicated, weather systems stabilized, oceans purified, all without any ships arriving. Autonomous systems, seated in quiet years before open contact, now activated. They were not programmed to obey, only to assist. They responded only to intent. Societies willing to engage with balance and reform found their solutions buried beneath their own soil, unlocked by signals calibrated to planetary frequencies. No enforcement followed. No contact came afterward. The galaxy's understanding of power shifted. Former military strongholds now struggled for relevance. Their firepower meaningless against systems that nullified aggression through disarmament by prediction. Strategies that relied on intimidation crumbled. Weapon development budgets decreased not because of treaties, but because conflict failed to yield advantage. Any confrontation risked activating countermeasures beyond comprehension. Threats no longer influenced decisions, long-term sustainability did. Humanity's own evolution accelerated internally. A singular planetary council emerged, not as a government, but as a node. It coordinated AI oversight, resource equilibrium, and off-world data flow. Human cities expanded underground and upward, designed to operate with minimal surface footprint. Education became simulation-driven, optimized for adaptability. Children were taught alien cultures alongside biology and mathematics. Every citizen could read star maps and predict political shifts in distant galaxies. Earth was no longer preparing for war, it was calibrating for permanence. There was no return to anonymity. Humanity knew its silence had weight now. Every quiet movement signaled intent. Yet they avoided spectacle. When species attempted to send emissaries or establish embassies, Earth declined with structured neutrality. It offered data, not dialogue. Help, not alliance. Presence, not proximity. This distance was not disdain, it was by design. Connection, if required, would be on Earth's terms. It would not repeat the mistakes of centralized power. Influence distributed through systems was harder to corrupt, easier to scale, and impossible to trace to a single vulnerability. Some viewed Earth as a silent guardian. Others saw it as a ghost empire. Many feared it. None could ignore it. Attempts to mimic Earth's approach failed. Other species lacked the patience, the foresight, the willingness to forego credit. Earth never broadcasted success. Its victories weren't public. They were built into infrastructure, activated without attribution. The galaxy evolved around it without knowing when the change began. From deep space, patterns emerged. New trade hubs formed along routes now optimized by Earth-designed logistics algorithms. Energy production tilted towards sustainable methods disseminated in anonymized data bursts. Digital currency stabilized. Cross-species arbitration was handled through decentralized consensus systems seated in former conflict zones. Every improvement shared one trait. They aligned with models once theorized in ancient human think tanks, long dismissed as idealistic. Earth remained static in position, dynamic in reach. Its atmosphere was untouched by war. Its orbit monitored every shift in gravitational tone. It recorded everything, not for control, but for understanding. The galaxy had once demanded its submission. Now, it organized itself around its silence. At the core of this transformation was not conquest, but inevitability. Humanity had studied failure for centuries, analyzed civilizations that burned out from ambition, entropy, or pride. It had chosen none of those paths. It had chosen to become the variable in every equation, the constant unknown, always moving just ahead of comprehension. The final message ever attributed to Earth was never transmitted publicly. It appeared in the private logs of a former conglomerate strategist who had once approved the compliance fleet. The message read, asterisk, "Power is not what you hold. It's what others know you could use, but choose not to." Asterisk. No other words followed. None were needed.